So about a month or so ago, a Jewish fellow was disputing with me in the comment section on YouTube about Yehoshua saying, love your enemies. And he was disputing that. So what I want to do today is I want to go over that, and I want to explain to everyone why that is necessary. And unfortunately, most who self-proclaim preachers don't even explain why. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into it in depth. Matityahu 5, starting in verse 38. You have heard that it has been said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say unto you, that you resist not toilsome. So the English word, they have an evil, or maliciousness. Maliciousness is probably the apropos word. Right? And whosoever shall strike you with a rod, or with the palm of their hand, on your right cheek, turn him the other also. What does he mean by this? This is, for lack of a better word, anathema to the way most people think. And if any man will sue you at the court of law and takes away your tunic, let him also have your outer garment, your coat. And whoso shall compel you to go a mile, go with them 2 miles. Give to him that asks, and from him that would borrow of you do not turn away. You have heard that it has been said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies and bless them which curse you. Do good to them that hate you, and pray for those that despitefully use you and persecute you, that you may be the children of your Abba which is in heaven, for he makes the sun to rise on the evil, the toilsome, the malicious people, and upon the righteous, and sends rain on the just and the unjust. For if you love them who love you, what is the benefit? Where is the profit? Don't even the tax collectors do the same, or the policemen do the same? They watch each other's back. If you salute your relatives only, what do you have more than anybody else? Because the tax collectors and the policemen also do that. Be you therefore perfect, even as your Abba which is in heaven is perfect. This does not, unfortunately, does not explain it. Does not give you the reason. Luke, however, does. But I say unto you, who are listening, love your enemies, do right by them which do wrong by you. Bless them that curse you, and pray for them who revile you. And those who smite you on your cheek, also offer the other, and to him that takes away your cloak, forbid him not to take your coat also. Now, this is worded a little bit different. If somebody steals a bit of your clothing, in your own mind you might say, well, he might need some. Give to every man that asks of you, and of him that takes away your goods, do not ask them again. Or anybody who borrows something from you, do not ask again. And as you would that men should do to you, do you also unto them likewise. Now we are starting to get some context, folks. Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. For if you love them which love you, what thank have you? For sinners also love those who love them. But if you do right by those who do right by you, what thank have you? For sinners also do the same. And if you lend to them of hope for return to receive, what thank have you? For sinners also lend to sinners to receive them much again. Love your enemies and do what is right, and lend, hoping for nothing in return, and your reward shall be great, and you shall be the children of the highest, for he is kind unto the unthankful and to the toilsome, the difficult people. Be you therefore merciful, because your Abba is also merciful. There, folks. Now you might look at this and say, I don't see how a man can possibly do this. Well, my answer to you is you can start small. Okay? Start small. So, I know a man who, when he moved into a new neighborhood, he didn't know anybody. He did not know a single soul. This neighborhood was in the country, in the rural area. So, he pulls up to a fellow riding on his bicycle. Didn't know the fellow. Rolled down his window and said, hey. And started asking him some questions. How is this neighborhood? This and that and the other things. What should I watch out for? And all of that. And the man gave him all the information he wanted, right? So the man who was in his vehicle, who asked, who was new to the neighborhood, he told the fellow on the bicycle, do you like turnip greens? Absolutely. Yes, I like turnip greens. Well, the fellow answered, when this fall comes, I'm going to have a ½ acre of turnip greens planted. And you can come and get as much as you want. Oh, really? The man didn't quite believe it, so they traded phone numbers. Well, the one man in the fall called the other man in the truck and told him, in the bicycle, come and get your turnip greens. How much do I owe you? Well, you owe me nothing. And he'd call him again. Make sure you get enough turnip greens. This is what he did. Well, that invoked a response from the other fellow. What did the other fellow do? The other fellow brought him fish The other fellow brought him venison, deer meat, for free. And this continued year after year. But one initiated, gave, asking nothing in return. You see what happened? So that's starting small. Okay? Now this is not, now it's concerning your neighbor. I want to warn you though. Now this right here in Leviticus 19, in the Torah, it talks about loving your neighbor. Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you is loving your neighbor. And this is what Yehoshua was talking about. But Yehoshua was talking about in the context of your Abba is merciful. Therefore you be merciful. This is right here is not talking about merciful per se. Okay? Merciful is to somebody who owes or to somebody who's already sinned. Well, we're going to read this too. It's Leviticus 19 and verse 9. And when you reap of the harvest of your land, you shall not totally reap the corners of your field. Why? Neither shall you gather the gleanings of your harvest. Why? Love your neighbor. And you shall not glean your vineyard, neither shall you gather every grape of the vineyard. Why? You shall leave them to the poor and the stranger. Says Yehovah Elohim, not Lord God. You shall not steal, you shall neither deal falsely, commit fraud, nor lie to one another, and you shall not swear by my name falsely, as many people do in the court of law, except now they don't swear by his name, they swear by the name of Satan, which is God. But anyway, neither shall you profane Shem Yehovah, or Shem, the name Elohim. Yehovah. You may not profane that name, and I've gone into extensively how Christians have done this. You shall not defraud your neighbor, neither rob him of the wages of him that is hired. You're not even allowed to let him wait until the morning for his wages. You're supposed to pay him the very same day. You shall not curse to death. Well, the death can't hear you. Why not? Because it is a stain on your soul to do so. Neither shall you put a stumbling block before the blind, but you shall fear Elohim Yehovah. Now, it continues. You shall do no unrighteousness in judgment. You shall not, or it does, it's, see, now let me tell you, show what King James Version did here, and I need to correct it. It says you shall not respect the person of the poor, nor the person of the mighty. It's not what it says. It says, you shall lift up the poor. You shall lift up the poor. And honor the great. In righteousness you shall judge your neighbor. You shall not go up and down as a slanderer among your people, and you shall not stand the blood of your neighbor. What does that mean? You shall not allow somebody to injure your neighbor or kill your neighbor. You shall not stand there and let it happen. Oh, does that mean you can use deadly force against somebody who is trying to injure your neighbor? Well, I'll let you, as an adult human, figure that one out. Says Jehovah, you shall not hate your brother in your heart. You shall rebuke your neighbor and not allow him to sin. You shall not avenge or bear any grudge against the children of your people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself, says Yehovah. So, love your neighbor as yourself is the same as Luke 6:31, as you would that men should do to you, do also unto them likewise. So before they do right by you, you do right by them first. And be ye therefore merciful. I'm going to give you an example. And I hate to do this. I hate to discuss it. I don't like it. But since it's very common in the United States of America, I have to mention it. So, let's say you, for an example, found out that another man has committed adultery with your wife. Should you go and kill him? Well, there are several scenarios. If you've already committed adultery with somebody else's wife, or you went and had another man's daughter without his approval, then you better not go and kill him. You better not do anything to him. What you need to do is be thankful that that man freed you of your wife. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to elaborate on that. But this is all in the context of you shall love your neighbor as yourself, do unto others as you have them do unto you, and be merciful therefore, because your Abba is also merciful to you. Now, I want to continue, I think. Yes. For in Yehoshua's prayer, when he says, when you pray like this. We'll go into verse 13, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Now, the man at the Vatican had a big problem with this one. He viewed temptation as in the temptation of the flesh. No, this is the Great Tribulation. This is what it's talking about, the Great Tribulation. Man at the Vatican doesn't know anything. He's a fool. But deliver us from evil. For yours is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Then he says in verse 14, and few people read this. For if you forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Abba will also forgive you. So, for your forgiveness of your sins is qualified by the forgiveness of the sins of those who committed sins against you. But if you forgive not men their trespasses, neither will your Abba forgive your trespasses. All right. So now I want to go to Jacob, not James, 2, in verse 13. On Judgment Day, on the day of Jehovah's wrath, he is going to have judgment without mercy on those who showed no mercy, because mercy rejoices against judgment. So, hopefully, I have made it easy to understand. And so for those who have difficulty, I'm going to give you another example of showing mercy to somebody. Okay? Now I know that many of you watch YouTube channels. You have seen how some of these bullies will come up against a martial artist. And what does the martial artist usually do? Walks away. Why is that? Because the martial artist knows that he has the capability of severely injuring this bully and perhaps even killing him. So he walks away showing that man mercy. That is, to me, a glaring example of what it means to show somebody mercy. Now that same fellow, that same martial artist, when somebody is attacking somebody else, causing him injury, and he now has the responsibility to stop that man from attacking somebody else and injuring him, because it is written, "You shall not stand against the blood of your neighbor," or "You shall not stand by while your neighbor is bleeding." Okay? And that goes with somebody who gets injured for whatever reason. You're supposed to help him out. You're being merciful. If you are merciful, your Abba is going to show you mercy in the day of judgment. That's the context of what we just talked about today.